episode of our Meet the Lender series is going to be one where we're joined by Isaac from BM Solutions. So Isaac is our business development manager. He's been there for a few years and he's absolutely fantastic. I'm sure you'll really enjoy listening to what he has to say. Now, in terms of BM Solutions, most of you will have come across them on your travels, but for those who have not, they're owned by or part of the Lloyds banking group. And BM Solutions are one of the biggest buy-to-let lenders in the UK. Now, in terms of how kind of my view on them is as a broker, for years and years, they really dominated the buy-to-let space. Then we had Section 24 and limited companies became a thing. BM Solutions took the decision at the time not to enter into the limited company market. But as I'm sure will come up in our discussion with Isaac, they have more recently moved into that space. But because they haven't really been playing in the more specialist end of the market, they've been sticking to doing what they do really, really well, which is lending to landlords with 10 or less buy-to-let properties on straightforward properties in personal names. They kind of do that side of things really well. Their service is excellent, and they have some kind of, unique points in terms of their criteria, which again I'm sure Isaac will come on to because it's part of the questions that I'm going to ask him. But they've been doing what they do really, really well for a long time, but they've actually moved into the limited company space more recently. So let's find out what Isaac has to say about BM Solutions. Isaac, thank you very much for joining us today. It's nice to have you in the hot seat. Thank you for taking time out of what I'm sure is a very busy week. And we are going to kick things off with our first question. Who is a typical buy-to-let borrower for BM Solutions?
Jen, so a typical buy-to-let borrower for BM Solutions, you're probably looking around this small to medium-sized professional landlord. So typically remortgaging from another lender as part of a small portfolio, 2 to 3. However, we are happy with up to 10 mortgaged buy-to-lets within a portfolio. So usually that's the space we tend to operate in.
Lovely. Okay, that's quite specific actually. And I think that's kind of reflective of the BM Solutions policy. So a lot of the lenders that we're doing in the Meet the Lender series that we're conducting are more specialists. Their kind of range is really broad and they sort of almost struggle to answer the question concisely. So it's nice to get just a this is a borrower for us sort of response. And actually, just to kind of touch on this, I'm just going to keep throwing things in now that you're not expecting, so sorry about that, Isaac. One of the things that BM Solutions have recently changed is a significant piece of lending policy, which is about lending to limited companies. And it feels wrong to have such a big piece of news and then have you talking to us and not actually mention this at all. So I would just like to kind of, touch on that for a moment if you're happy to do so.
So of course I was going to anyway.
I got in there first.
Squeeze it in somewhere.
This is your moment to talk about the BM Solutions limited company offering, because at the moment your borrowers are people, but now you're going to have borrowers who are companies. So let's just have a look at that for a moment, Isaac.
It will be a little bit off the cuff and I'm going to try and utilize some good memory here, but we've definitely launched into the limited company space. And look, 400,000 buy-to-let limited companies out there registered in that space. It's a big opportunity. We know it. And we've sat quite nicely in what is a maturing market, a market that's been quite good for a little while. And to keep it simple, probably from a broker's perspective, we've more or less copied and pasted the criteria you're already familiar with and then moved that across to the limited company space. So it's massively opened up some really interesting aspects, such as we allow 4 applicants. So convert that into limited company, you've got 4 shareholders and directors. And there's other quirks such as multiple SPVs being able to come to us. And again, things that brokers love, like no minimum income criteria and our no minimum letting period, which basically states that as long as there's an AST, someone moving in within 14 days, we're happy to consider that. So the typical 3 or 6 months prior isn't needed. And again, it's just, given our scale and size, the ability to punch with some of the big players and be able to be in that top 3 and offer a different option has given us a massive boost, and we're quite excited about the launch.
I'm also excited. I think for anybody who's watching this, what I would say about BM Solutions and limited company offering, to my mind, is that you guys are currently, and this won't necessarily always be the case, but currently your pricing is really, really fantastic. So if you can get into a BM Solutions limited company rate, it's a really, nice option to have for people. So well done to BM Solutions for joining the limited company party. Next question, Isaac. What would you say are your top 3 USPs?
I'm going to cheekily throw back in limited company buy-to-lets because it would be a miss for me to not say that's not one of our top USPs. And it's interesting you mentioned pricing, but I think sometimes it's even going into the basics a bit more. It's the fact that we are launching with a product transfer offering. Now, I've been a BDM for 3 years. I've heard some horror stories around product transfers in the limited company space. And what we're bringing is our reputation in the personal space to be able to offer not just at the point that that customer comes to us, but hopefully take that customer along a longer journey. So I just wanted to throw that in. And then let's get on to some different things. So you've got property types. Now, property types is a question that us as BDMs get asked a lot. The size and scale that we operate at, we actually, I think it surprises people, are a lot more open than most. I regularly get asked about flats above shops, for example, non-standard construction, high-rise blocks, 5 stories and above with cladding. I can definitely say all 3 of those are within remit. There are some T's and C's, and if you're unsure, definitely speak to your business development manager. And on top of that, sometimes it will be we can tell you it's not against policy, but it will come down to valuers' comments because it's about location, saleability, lettability. But that is a really big USP that allows us to essentially stand out from our competitors. And another one, which I'm not sure if this is a fair USP, but I'm going to throw it in there. It's to do with capacity. I think it's very underestimated. And Jen, you will remember, 2023, or probably end of 2022 into 2023, when it all kind of went crazy and, a lot of lenders were probably creaking on the sides. Our ability to flex, the experience of the team, the fact that we're able to deal with large scale volume coming our way and deal with those shocks that do come in the market. I think that's a USP that I always want to shout about and why we are a trusted brand in the market. And on top of that is, in preparedness for things like limited company buy-to-lets, a lot of the BDMs, including myself, have or are training to have their practitioner in specialist finance qualification, because we believe it's important for us to be the experts in the room when we are supporting our clients. And then lastly, it's just the consistent service levels. Doesn't matter whether it's a big busy market or it's a quiet market. We want consistency in that in what we deliver. And again, it goes back to that capacity, strong experience, and just the fact that we're always striving to improve the staff force and our knowledge so we can support our clients and brokers.
I actually think you're about 23 USPs in there, Isaac. But that's great. And actually, do you know what? I had thought if you weren't going to mention the product transfers and the sort of credit risk appetite for property, I was going to add those in, because to me, those are definitely 2 of the key reasons that we particularly favour BM Solutions. So for people watching, for context, BM Solutions have always offered product transfers to their borrowers, and they've always been really competitive as well. They're not a lender who kind of adds on maybe 1 or 2% onto the interest rate because you're kind of seen as a captive audience or something. So always very, very competitive, really look after their existing borrowers as well as the new borrowers to the bank. And in terms of the valuations, yeah, absolutely down to valuers' comments on so many things, which is really great. And you do free valuations.
In personal name, yes. In limited company, you may see some slight variances in the way we position the product. So I wouldn't say that as a guarantee, but always good to look at the products that are available at the time.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, your next question is, what is the most common reasons that you see BM Solutions declining applications?
So the most common reasons for applications being declined now, no 2 cases are the same, and it's a hard one to answer. But I will touch on probably what is a more common decline in terms of when a broker will reach out to a BDM, and it tends to be things like credit score declines. And I think what I'll definitely love to do is probably demystify that area a little bit. So one of the things is, underwriters use loads of different data sources, and one of the first starting points is the three major credit reference agencies. And there is a specific company out there that allows customers to have access to all three, and a lot of brokers use it as well. That would always be my starting point if I've given the best advice to brokers out there and clients, because just because you can see one credit reference agency and you might have a subscription with them, what that reference agency shows could be different to the two others. And it's such a common thing that happens. And it's not to say it in somewhat of an arrogant way, but whenever I get an email across and it's a credit score decline, I ask for the credit report showing all three bureaus, and 9 times out of 10 I can spot a specific detail that could be the reason why that case is not as strong as you thought it could have been going in. And once you've got access to those free reports, have a good look, utilize us as a skill set to be able to learn about what we're looking at. When we're rarely looking at the score, we are focused on the detail, we're focused on accuracy, things like multiple addresses, things like missed payments, things like adverse events that happen across a certain period of time. And this is where a BDM can be really valuable, because we can then advise whether an appeal route you're in the best place to do it, or whether it could be your time best spent looking elsewhere. So I know it's a roundabout way of answering it, but at least I can offer some guidance in terms of when that type of decline comes across.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, actually, because one of the things that you have mentioned that makes you guys really great to deal with is the absolutely brilliant service that BM Solutions offer to its borrowers in terms of speed of application, and also your ability to kind of take on large numbers of applications as the market fluctuates in terms of busyness. And the reason you're able to do that is because you do, as a business, to some extent lean quite heavily on technology to do part of the decisioning process with your applications, which is fantastic. But yeah, so obviously, we have found that people do not pass credit score with yourselves, but also other lenders. It's not just specific to BM Solutions. And you're right, actually, if you've got any missed payments, anything you would be showing on your credit file that could cause an issue, no. Pull the credit file, and lo and behold, there's a missed payment to Thames Water or something. So, that's really good advice about the three referencing agencies rather than just the one as well, because they don't always match up. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, next question for you then, Isaac, is how can applicants ensure a smooth application process with BM Solutions?
Applicant can ensure a smooth and quick application with BM Solutions. It sounds really simple on the outset, but I have to start with accuracy and keying. So names, addresses, commitments. Are those commitments? I don't know. Is it £500 or is it £700? And sometimes you might have a document in front of you that's a month old, and the client has done something that you're not aware of. So really making sure that you're looking at the most up-to-date information. That goes a very long way, because if there is mismatches, that can reduce the credibility of that case or result in further queries further down the line. Document readiness, just making sure that the documents actually match what you've put on the application. Again, I'm not saying the majority of people are just throwing in loads of information and not having the docs to hand, but I would be lying if I said those instances don't come about. So if a client's telling you that their rental is a certain figure, make sure you verify that with the document, because we may ask for that document at any point of the application process, and you want to be in a position where you've got it to hand, you can provide it with speed, and therefore the case can advance because you've satisfied that query. And then probably as a last point as well is, I do get involved in probably more the escalated stuff, and there are times where 5 things have been asked for, and the broker has sent 1 at a time. Probably not the best way to communicate with our colleagues. If you can get all of that together, package it in one go. If you're unsure, utilize and lean on your business development manager for support and guidance, and therefore those are the type of things that can help to move things along in chunks, as opposed to a really elongated, dragged out process that can sometimes occur when there's a lack of clarity of how the process works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of our biggest kind of challenges actually is that most applicants are incredibly diligent when they fill out their forms and they really make sure that they are accurate. But there are some people who are maybe a little bit more kind of, I mean, if I was going to fill out my application form, I would probably fit into this camp, to be fair, a bit more kind of loose with the specifics on information. And I think, so from a kind of underwriter's perspective, I suppose, and to give context to why it's important, if an applicant's saying, I have a loan that costs me £300 a month, but on the credit search, you're only seeing a loan that costs £150 a month, you're going to assume that there's therefore two loans because the client's telling you about one and the credit reference agent is telling you about another. So you're then making assumptions which could be adversely impacting the application. Obviously, I'm now talking like I'm an underwriter.
Perfect. As every broker should put your underwriter hat on, and you'll be surprised the world it opens up for you.
Perfect. So the next question we have for you is around the Renters' Rights Bill and how we think you're talking on behalf of BM Solutions, not just yourself here, obviously, how you think the upcoming changes in legislation may impact how BM Solutions chooses to lend going forwards.
So the upcoming changes in legislation for the Renters' Rights Bill, I mean, it's huge, right? So it is too early to confirm the impact because, it's currently at this, it's just come from the House of Lords, gone back to the House of Commons. Our understanding is the House of Commons has not been open to most of the amendments from the House of Lords. So there's still a lot of detail to be fleshed out. There are some, although I can't talk to what is 100% going to be in the bill until it is the bill, there are some interesting aspects to it. Things like the landlord database, which, it will be a public register by the sounds of it, where you're able to check if a landlord is compliant, things like gas safety certificate, electric certs, EPC, all of the minimum requirements that landlord must have in order to legally rent out a property in the UK, or specifically in England. I think it's a big opportunity for brokers and lenders because, I mean, what a great conversation to have with your client before an application goes in, where you've searched that public register and you've actually been able to give them guidance of how to position themselves in the best way to the lender, rather than we're the ones that find out. And we've made amendments to our application process. For example, we won't accept an application where the EPC has expired. So it will stop at application, and we then prompt you to go and speak to your client. How about that? That actually just disappeared because this register exists. So these are the type of things that I think are going to start to play into the lending world, and we're going to look to see how we can utilize that data and probably adapt our decision making off the back of it as well.
Brilliant, thank you.
No worries. One thing I would add as well, on that question as well, is we are regularly trained as BDMs on things like the Renters' Rights Bill, sustainability, minimum energy efficiency standards. We are really well placed to support brokers on this. I have a whole 30-slide deck on Renters' Rights Bill, so I'm really ready to go. So
you're the Renters' Rights Bill expert.
Yeah, if anyone's excited to go through 30 deck slides of a bill, I'm your person. So that's the effort we're making at BM here.
So if anyone has got any questions on the Renters' Rights Bill, just contact Isaac at BM Solutions. He'll be delighted to help you.
More than happy to help.
Thank you. And then lastly, just to wrap this up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the future of the private rental sector.
Sure. So the future of the private rental sector, I mean, this is a great question because there's so much change, there's so much movement, and we're all trying to keep up. Quite interestingly, we did a survey in 2024 to about 600 of our landlords, and there were some really interesting outputs off the back of that. One of them was that there is a lot in the press around, there's an exodus, but I think most brokers I speak to probably don't quite subscribe to the version of an exodus, and rightly so, because a lot of our findings is there's probably more of a consolidation happening. So there's, of course, the smaller landlord very much under pressure, especially what we would know as an accidental landlord, and therefore a lot of the more professional landlords who probably have gone in with some version of a business plan or a strategy moving forward are the ones that are looking at the current dynamics of record high rents, probably bit of a buyer's market in most areas where they can pick up stock for cheaper than what they would have done in the previous markets that we were in. And they're looking at it as a perfect time to grow and expand and take those properties from those landlords who probably have hit the capacity of what they're willing to endure with the change in regulatory environments and just some of the obligations that landlords should always be aware of, but probably they're learning more and more that there is a lot more liability that maybe they had signed up for. So we're not quite seeing the doom and gloom yet, but we are definitely seeing a professional landlord who is probably going to be the 5 to 10 plus, starting to really grow in the market and offer a very different tenant focused service that is probably going to be what the market will look like moving forward.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, when we speak to our clients, there's definitely a notable kind of shift towards those landlords who, as you mentioned, have kind of got the portfolio landlords plus. These are the guys who are kind of, very committed to staying. They might be selling off a couple of properties which are very low yielding or won't pass the MEES requirements for, love or money or without spending a fortune, but they're still very committed to the market and actually, are buying as well. And then you've got the guy who rented out his house because he's moving in with his girlfriend, who's just like, this is too difficult these days. And it's a shame to see any landlords leave the market, but I think, for those who are going to remain in the market, actually seeing it become a very professional place, it's a good thing, isn't it?
And I mean, look, we want this market to stay for a very long time. We're all in it. We all want it to prosper. And if someone is obviously not quite comfortable offering everything that they're required to, then naturally it might not be the worst thing for them to pass that over to someone who is willing to lean into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wise words. Isaac, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really nice to hear all about BM Solutions and and also to speak to you as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. I enjoyed that.
So there you go. That was BM Solutions. And once again, thank you very much to Isaac for joining us on that. We're going to continue recording meetings with lenders so we can share more about them and you can see firsthand what the lenders have to say for themselves. But if there are any lenders that you would like us to get in and speak to for you, just let us know. You can leave a note in the comments or you can always drop us a line on the usual email address, or you can give us a call 0345 345 6788. Likewise, if there are any questions you'd like us to ask, please just let us know. We'd be happy to tailor these to fit around you. Thank you for joining us and we'll see you next time around.